Previously, we covered the basic if statement and the if-else statement. Now we're going to look at the if-elif-else chain. So, how does this work? First off, you have your if statement like always. If that is true, it executes the if block. Then, if that fails, we move on to our first elif. Remember that this is short for else if. This will have its own condition that is then checked. If that is false, then we move on, and if there's another elif, we execute the next elif in the chain. If we run out of elifs, then we have nothing left but our else, which is guaranteed to execute if all of our ifs and elifs fail. So, we have modified versions of our 5 examples, and we're going to use if-elif-else chains to evaluate them. So, starting off, we're going to ask if a car, given its model year, is a classic, antique, or modern vehicle. And let me remove this 0 from my hotkey. So, first off, we have model year equals int input. We're doing this from scratch. In what year was your car made? Oops. And then we do age of car equals 2023 minus model year. Now we begin our chain. So the first thing we want to do is we want to determine how we're going to break this up. And the first thing I want to do is I like to work from largest numbers to smallest numbers or the other way around. So we can eliminate the need for compound conditionals by doing this. So we can say if age of car is greater than 25, print this car is an antique. Elif, in this you have another condition. Age of car is greater or equal to 10. This will determine if it is. What is essentially happening here is since this failed, we know it's not greater than or equal to greater than 25, so we know it is less than or equal. So now we are taking that and we are adding to it if the age of the car is greater than or equal to 10. So then we print this car is a classic. Now, if both of these fail, we know for a fact that the age of our car is less than 10 years. So we do our else, print this is a modern car. Moving on to our second example, we're going to determine a letter grade. And this is going to be a complicated one. So we have our grade equals float input. What is the final grade? Now, again, we can work from one end of the number line to the other. We're going to start with A's. So if grade is greater than or equal to 90.0, print A. Elif grade greater than or equal to 80.0, print B. We see a pattern here. We can start copy pasting these to save some time. So we have our C, D. All right, so this is a 70 for a C, a 60 for a D. Fix these letters. And then let's copy paste this, because we'll say else F. So let's follow this chain, because I typed it out pretty fast. If grade is greater than or equal to a 90, of course we print an A. If this fails, then we know that it is less than 90. So Elif grade is greater than or equal to 80, which then by extension, again, it is less than 90, we print B. Elif grade is greater than or equal to 70, because if this fails, we know it's less than 80. But if it is also greater than or equal to 70, we print a C. Elif grade is greater than or equal to 60, which we already know if this fails, then we know that it is less than 70. We print a D. In all other cases, if all four of these conditions fail, then we know that it is less than 60, and any grade below a 60 is an F. So that is the logic you follow when you are doing your if-elif-else chain. And at the end of this video, I'm going to look at doing this as strictly as a series of ifs. And you'll see why this is often preferable to just doing if. So let's ask, are we tall, short, or average height? So height equals input, how tall are you in inches? Oops, missed my eye. All right, so, all right, we have our input. So if height greater than 70, because that is our arbitrary number for how tall we are, and what counts as tall, print, you are tall. Elif height is, let's say average height would be at least 65 inches, so 5'5". If height is greater than or equal to 65, print you are average height. Otherwise, we know that we are below 70, or at least we are equal to 70. That has failed. We know that we are less than 65 because this has failed. So now we have our else, print you are short. No offense to anybody who might be under 5'5". It's not a dig at anybody. This is just some arbitrary code to demonstrate the if-elif-else chain. Now, long, short, or average name. Well, don't this look really similar in wording? We can use something similar to this here. Would it be worth it to copy paste? That is up to you. But I'm going to show you another way that we gather. We could condense our length operation, since we do need to use it before we do our if-elif-else chain, because we're referencing it multiple times. Instead of running that calculation more than once, we just store it somewhere. So we do length of name. This is an option. It may not necessarily be the best thing to do, but it is an option. You have to use your best judgment to decide whether or not this is the right way to go about it. Equals len string input. What is your full name? Okay, so now we have the length, we have our string, we have our input, we have our string. The purple parentheses is where we want to add, because we're doing a string. We're going to dot replace our spaces with empty strings. So what is this mess doing? Is this readable? Not especially, but you may find that this is an appropriate way to structure your function calls. That is entirely up to you. So, length of name. What we want is we're taking an input, we are casting it to a string. That string is then getting replaced, empty space, or blank white space with empty strings, and then we're taking the length of that resultant string, and then we're storing it in length of name. So, we've condensed all this into one line, and now we're going to perform our calculations here, or our comparison. So if length of name is greater than 20, print your name is long. Elif length of name, let's say it's greater than 12. Print you have an average length name. So, if we have more than 20 characters in our full name, then we print your name is long. Otherwise, if we have more than 12, which would be anywhere from 13 to 20 characters, then we say we have an average length name. Else, we want to say your name is short. Okay, so we have that done, and now we have one more. Instead of an exponent, we're doing even, odd, or neither. So we're going to do an input for number. We'll just say number equals int input, enter an integer. If we want to ask, is it even? So number mod 2, equals 0. That's number mod 2, not number mod 23. We want to print even. Now, there are two ways that we could check if it's odd. We could do number mod 2 equals 1. What we're actually going to do is I see how this could be a bit better. Make this our elif, and let's bring this down. You see how we're modifying our code here because we spot a better way to do it. If number equals 0, neither even nor odd, because 0 is neither even nor odd, it is just 0. So, if that fails, and we know we have a non-zero number, if number mod 2 equals 0, if it's even, we print even. Otherwise, we know our number is odd, so we print odd. Not ood, odd. There we go. Save our code, and let's give it a run. First off, I'll CLS. All right, so in what year is your car made? Let's say 1965. This car is an antique. What is the final grade? 88.2 B. How tall are you in inches? I'm going to stick with my height, 67. I'm average height. I very much am. What is your full name? Again, we'll use the same name. Charlotte Jadzia Maddox. I forgot to put my space. That is okay. Remember not to make that mistake. Give some space between your input prompt and the cursor. So I have an average length name. Lastly, we enter an integer. Let's say 53 is odd. So now we see how we go from a plain Jane if statement to an if-else to these if-elif-else chains that can accommodate a wide variety of outcomes. And this is how your code begins to grow in complexity at an exponential rate. It is absolutely critical that you memorize how this is done, what your indentations should look like. Does it matter how far your indentations go? No. You could go out just one space, you could go out 2, 4, 5, 10. It's up to you. It's up to your own coding style and your employer when you are working in industry. So, now, one last thing I want to talk about is, I'm just going to call this if, dot, dot. So recall our letter grade example from before. Let's redo this. Let's copy paste it and adjust it. That's the fast way to do this. And we're going to use nothing but ifs. And I'm going to show you why that is a bad idea. So let's grab this code. We're going to copy it. We're going to paste it down here. What we're going to do is we're going to change all these to ifs, and then we're going to fix them. And then we'll change this one in a moment. So, if grade is greater than or equal to 90, we know that that is an A. If, now we have to do multiple conditions here. If grade is less than 90.0 and grade is greater than or equal to 80.0, we know it's a B. And now we do the same thing here. If grade is less than 80.0 and grade is greater than or equal to 70, that's a C. If grade is less than 70.0 and grade is greater than or equal to 60, that's a D. Now we have to create another condition. Let's just copy paste this and move our numbers. Actually, no, let's not do that. We can just say if grade less than 60.0, and that is an F. This code does the same thing as the if-elif-else chain from before. But why does this work worse? Because say we entered 93 in our grade. First, this if is going to evaluate. It's going to come out true. We print A. With the if-elif-else chain, that's where it stops. And then we jump down to here and keep going. We're done with that block. We're done with that construct. However, here, now we evaluate, is it a B? Is it a C? Is it a D? Is it an F? We are wasting computational time and effort when we only need one of these to be checked. Now, when might you use something like this? You might find yourself using this if, say, your conditions overlap, and it is possible that you might have 2 or more of these conditions executing. That is an option. However, if you only need one outcome, you do not want to use this style. You want to use the if-elif-else chain. So bear that in mind going forward to think critically. How many outcomes do you have that are possible? How many overlap, if any? And you adjust your code accordingly. The only way you're going to be able to do this is with practice. Practice, practice, practice. I've been doing this for 14 years, and I still have to stop and think about what my conditions look like. How do I organize them? Do they overlap? Can I get more than one outcome possible? Or is it just one? Critical thinking and practice are everything in programming. So, bear all this in mind. I will post these notes to Canvas. This is a very long notes section for our class, But it is important that you practice this until you are blue in the face so that you can do the structure, the syntax. The syntax should be automatic by the time you've mastered this. You might have to, restudy, pick it back up sometime later. But while you're doing it, you should get to a point while you're working with a particular language that the syntax is automatic. So, that'll do it for this lesson. When we come back, we're going to take a look at loops. Our code is going to continue getting ever more complex, so stay tuned for that.